This video is a 10,000 feet overview of continuous delivery, or CD for short. We'll talk about what problem CD solves and then highlight how a team implementing CD does things differently from other teams. Let's get started. This is an extensive and complex topic all by itself. Considering that the goal of this video is only to introduce you to the concept, many details have been glossed over in this video. Let's first start by describing the problem that we are trying to solve. The build, measure, learn cycle is one of the core ideas in the lean startup world. The faster a startup can cycle through this loop, the better are the chances that it will be able to reach what is called product market fit. That is the threshold point at which a startup confirms that there is enough demand to be able to build a sustainable business around the product. Reaching product market fit is a multi-step process that starts with finding who the early adopters of the product are. And once they're discovered, the goal is to rapidly iterate to new versions of the product, and while doing this, get constant feedback from the early adopters. That in turn requires frequent updates to the production environment with new and updated features. The more frequently this can be done, the better it is. While it is ideal to do this multiple times a day, at Multunus, we do this at least once every 2 days. Such frequent updates require what is called a highly streamlined and automated deployment workflow. So how does a team create such a workflow? Well, it requires rethinking almost all phases of the software development lifecycle. The differences start right from the planning phase. While in a traditional setup, it's normal to have features that can take a couple of weeks to build, in a CD world, those features are sliced down to a point where they're small enough to fit within a week of effort at the most. And these features are further sliced down to stories where each story can be released at least once every 2 days. In a non-CD setup, the automated tests are limited to just functional testing, whereas in a CD environment, security and performance tests are also automated. While continuous integration is a common practice in most agile teams, deployment of code to staging or production is still usually a manual activity. In a CD team, however, the team writes scripts to automate the whole process, sometimes including items such as setting up the operating system itself. As you can see, CD teams use automation quite extensively in many parts of the workflow. We'll take a look at 2 more areas where this is done. It is important to ensure that code is moved from one environment to the next only if all of the tests pass. A CD team also automates the process of triggering the automated tests and then deploying the correct build of the target environment when all of the tests pass. As you can imagine, the builds are also automatically blocked from moving to the next step in the pipeline if at least one of the tests fail. Perhaps one of the most visible aspects of continuous delivery is push-button deployment. In this kind of environment, the programmer just pushes a button on a graphical console to do everything from triggering the tests to deploying their code to a target environment. The push-button deployment console makes it possible for just about anyone to push code to a live environment. This is quite useful because it now puts customers in total control of when they want to push updates to production. Sometimes it's important to be able to open up a feature to only a small cross-section of users, get their feedback first, and then when everything looks good, open up the feature to a wider audience. The concept of feature toggles is very useful to achieve this. These are small code-level configurations shipped with every story to allow for fine-grained control of the visibility of those stories in production. That was a lot of concepts in theory, but wouldn't it be great if you could actually see some of this in action? If you're a technical person, please make sure to watch the TDD and CD in action video to see how these concepts work in the real world. That video attempts to make all of these concepts more tangible by allowing you to look over the shoulder of a programmer while he writes code using test-driven development and also uses our push-button deployment infrastructure to automatically run those tests and move code to a target environment. Thanks for watching. We've now covered everything from the big picture of why we exist as a company all the way down to how our programmers write and deploy code on a daily basis. The last video in the series talks about the culture at Multunus. Watching that will explain the DNA of the team at our company.